Recording. Yes, we are. Hello, everybody. Welcome back again. Okay, so I'm talking at the beginning of the video, which means this is going to be a 101 video. We're finally going to talk about the abomination that I did. It's not really an abomination. It works. Actually works better than I thought. I just don't like it. But we'll get into that later. I didn't really change anything when it comes to sound, so there's nothing different there. I mean, we can still play all the same stuff, but adding all the frets. Actually, let's get into the beginning of the video, because that way you guys don't have to wait to what I have to say about it. I never wanted to do this. I didn't. I like the Merlin the way it is, with one exception. The third fret is I'm gonna next Merlin I buy, it's gonna have that fret. Just because we need a proper C and I need an F. And that was the whole thing. When I started going to these jams, taking a Merlin was awesome, right? You could play a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of stuff you can't play just because you don't have the right keys. But the thing is, and early in the jams, that's when I decided to do this. Because at first I tried taking multiple Merlins, different keys. That was a pain in the ass. And then I figured, okay, I'm not going to ever do lessons on this, but if I have just a full fretted Merlin, I can take it to jams, and then I have every key. I don't have to ever not be able to play something. And you know what happened after I did this? I took this to the jam 0 times. Because that's how it goes, right? I did my favorite one with my favorite pick card. Now I don't use it. I'm going to start using it eventually. But here's what the thing is, why I don't like it. The way I use a Merlin, there's a lot of reaching I'm doing. And now we put that fret in the middle. I can't, it's even, like it's in my way. And it's really what it comes down to is it just doesn't, I don't know. I think I went into it thinking it'll be the same instrument, just multiple keys, but it's not. It's a completely different instrument. Like it does work well now. It opens you up to a lot of new stuff. It honestly does. But it's not my taste anymore. So we're gonna cut in right here with, so these videos go back to over a year ago. This is when I did this. This was when I was in between houses. I was staying at a friend's place. And then I went to the cabin. So, and then I was there for like 6 months, and then I got my new place. I don't know if anyone remembers all that stuff, but I was in lots of transitions. So I didn't actually video everything. So I got the start of it, all the way up to when it came time to work the frets into shape. So we'll go to that now, and then we'll come back. Alright, welcome back everybody. We're doing a 101 video today. We're going to add frets. We're going to add all the frets to the Merlin. We're going to take it from diatonic to chromatic. So basically every missing fret we are going to put in. I've already got my lines marked and measured. And for this you're going to need some sort of measuring tool, however you want to do it. I use calipers. You're going to need files. You're going to need a pair of clippers, you're going to need frets, and then you're going to need a fret saw. So the frets we're using, they're classified medium. I don't know what exact size is. I'll get that. I'll probably have that in the description for when I do it. So I've got everything measured, ready to go. So I am going to do my cuts here next. And then I'll come back when the cuts are done. And we'll go from there. Alright, back for this part here. So we've got the first slot cut. So we're using that fret saw. You could use any pullback saw that's has a really thin blade like that. It will work, but make sure it's a pullback saw because it's a lot easier to control. So we got the first slot cut. I'm just kind of eyeballing. See if we get in here. Kind of eyeballing how deep I'm going, because you want to go the same distance as the tang on the underside of the fret. And then I got the first fret. They're guitar fret shaped, right? So I clipped it off. So you need a pair of clippers. I clipped it off, and then I'm just using a small rotary tool just to kind of shape it, and then pull the tangs back so they're angled back like that. If that can focus up, there we go. So the tang is that bottom thin part. Alright, I'm gonna start getting that first fret in, and then I'll be right back with the next part. Alright, we're back again. Let me get my fingers out of the way. So I got the first two installed. So the slots I did with the little pull saw I have were a little too thin. So what I did, I went in on an angle and widened them up a little bit. And then I used a little triangle file and just kind of widen the hole, or the slot, the top of the slot, so they get started easier. Then a little trick I found online, I'm using a screwdriver to do it, but just water, and just get some water into the slot. Helps the fret go in. I did the first one without it, and it was a pain. Second one was so much easier with it on. I didn't have the proper brass or rubber hammer, so I just got a normal hammer, and then I taped the rubber stop on it. Well, that tape's all getting smashed up, but it'll do me for what I'm using it for. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish the last 3 frets, and then once I get that going, I will come back. Just a note too, when cutting all the slots, I did it freehand. Don't do that. You're better go get a miter box, something that will give you the perfect straight, because this fret here I went in a little of an angle, and then I had to widen it just to get it to work, which was a pain to do. So you're better if you get a miter box, and then you can make sure your cuts are going in square. Then we'll get to this later too. I'll explain all that later. Alright, I'm going to put the rest of the frets in, and I'll see you guys in a second. Alright, I'm back again. I've got all the frets in. They're not perfect, they're not great, but I think they'll be for what we need it to. Like, you can kind of see they're not, like that one goes off at an angle. That one's pretty good. That one's pretty good. That one, because I fixed it, that one looks pretty good. So it's just that one, so I'm not really too worried about it. So this one here is the one that I cut at an angle, and I saw it was in, so I widened the slot. So when I was putting the higher frets in, hammering them in, it popped up. So all I did, a little bit of super glue into the slot, and then I hammered it back in, clamped it with a clamp for a couple minutes just till it dried, and we're good to go. So now that all the frets are in, we've got all the edges that are not perfect, a little bit jagged. So that's where this comes in. I just made this up. We got a flat file, a small flat file that I cut the tang off. And we've got a little block in there clamping it in. So that basically just slides on here like this. So we can file down all the edges so that everything is nice and even. That block is cut at a 30-degree angle. And you can see how I did that. It's nothing special. They sell these blocks as well, and they usually come with a radius bottom. But the fretboard in here is close enough to to being flat, that a flat bottom will work. I'm just noticing though, I wish I would have cut this block a little bit smaller that way. Like if I would have cut it here, probably be a little easier, but that's fine. Alright, I'm gonna file the frets down, get them all even, and then I'll be back with the next step. Alright, so we're back. We've rounded off all the frets, so they're all nice and flush. So like again, I said, with this little file system we got here, so just went back and forth, took them all off, and then what that does is that raises up a burr. A lot of times you take a little file and just get rid of that burr, but I always find just a small piece of sandpaper is best. I'm using 320 grit. So basically after I file them all even, then I just take this and I just get rid of the burr. And then once that's done, steel wool. Steel wool is how I always clean my fretboards, my guitars, everything I use. Strings are off, I just go back and forth on the frets, and it shines them up, gets all the crap off them. And that'll take care of any final burr we have on the fret as well. So I'm just finishing that up now, and then once I get that, I will string this up, put some strings on it, and see what it sounds like. We'll see you guys when I come back. Alright, so that was, like I said, that footage was from a year ago. So after that, so the last thing in that video you saw was me rounding the frets over with that little tool I made. That thing was great. I can't believe that worked. So from there, my problem I had, two problems I had, two things I'm gonna say. I didn't mention in the old footage, when I cut the frets, I did it freehand, which I shouldn't have done. Getting a miter box, oh, because I do have one that went off straightness, off square, which was a bit of a pain. Okay, so yeah, I'm using miter box, and then the other problem I had is the frets I ordered, they were supposed to be the same size frets as a Merlin, but they weren't. Like if you look at them, they're huge compared to the old Merlin ones, right? Oh, it's not focusing. There you can see. Like they're quite a bit bigger. So being bigger means they're higher, which means they're sticking too high up, which means they're hitting strings when they're not supposed to be hitting strings. So from there, what I did is I got a block of wood. I got some 60 or 80 grit sandpaper. I just went back and forth on the frets until they're all level. Did that, and then a friend of mine. This is the expensive part. This is what the problem is the fret file. A friend of mine had one that I could borrow, but usually these fret files are like $80. And what they do, because once you sand it all, you take the radius down, you take the point down, right? You're flattening it. So now you have to put that radius back on, and that's what a fret file does. You Google it; it'll show you what it is. His file actually was like a cheap Chinese one. I paid like $15 for. Worked great. So that was it. No, that was not it. After that, now the frets are a little rough, so I have to polish them. All I did for that was I just took some steel wool, 000 steel wool. I use that stuff for everything when it comes to guitars. And I just went back and forth a bunch of times and smoothed them out, got rid of all the snags. Like, you should do better than steel wool, but for me that was good enough. Usually you want to take it even finer. And that's it. So that was my experiment, making it a diatonic to chromatic. Chromatic? What's the word I'm looking for? Diatonic. Making it from dulcimer frets to full frets. Chromatic. No. Diatonic. Chromatic. I don't know if that's just not sounding right or it's not right now. I'm having one of those moments. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. Like I said, it's not, like I said before we switched to that old footage, not technically for me overall. Like, I liked Merlin because it's the Merlin. But this does have some benefits, right? I should actually start playing with it more. It's so much easier with the Merlin because of fretting. And it's so ingrained in my head now, right? But that was my experiment. That's really my opinion on it. If it's good or not doesn't really matter. If it works for you, it's gonna work for you. It's just a personal preference type thing. It's like the mahogany or the spruce or the G or the D. It's whatever works for you. Like, there's no wrong way to play music. Like, you got those dulcimer players, right? Where they don't chord. They just on the high string. Why is that wrong, right? You know, do play it the way you want to play it. It doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks. If you're having fun, if it works for you, who cares? Go for it. That's it. So that was that. Like, it's my experiment. It's probably more useful than I'm giving it a chance for, but I'll get to it one day. I still haven't even really done anything on my octave mandolin. I keep thinking maybe I should just rip half the frets out and take 2 strings off and turn it into a freaking dulcimer. It's drumstick. That won't happen. But I will do that video on that octave mandolin soon. Just because there's not much out there for that one. That brand, and if it's worth it or not. That's it. Practice patience, have fun. We will see you guys next time.